You know, that opening always reminds me how much I miss 24. Welcome back, everybody, to a special episode of both Big Apples Hockey and Rangers Central's coverage of the NHL. And it is it's big news today. If you saw the headlines, Connor McDavid resigns, and it's going to be some shocking information. We're going to get more into that in a second. Of course, guys, I'm your host, Mark Williams. Happy to join you. And with the host of the Final Buzzer, Mr. John Falkowski.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of thinking last week that he was going to resign, and I thought maybe short-term deal was on the table. Here we are.
Well, when we need reinforcements, we call on the guys from Rangers Central. Welcome back, Evan.
Igor Shesterkin should be ashamed. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you know, we could have taken a little bit less. And, of course, always great to have your partner, Matt, with you.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Always great to be back on. I am shocked. I am shocked. Just listen, I'm not shocked at the fact that McDavid re-signed at Edmonton. I thought that was always a possibility. I'm just shocked at the fact that it's a 2-year deal and it's only at $12.5 million a year. I mean, credit to Connor McDavid. You know, I know he wants to get paid, but it's just showing the fact that he wants to win and he wants to win in Edmonton, and he's giving the Oilers every single chance to go and, you know, extend their cup window, because now, like I said, taking this 2-year deal and only $12.5 million a year, that's as cheap as you could probably get ever on a deal for a superstar player like that.
Yeah, and whenever there's a contract or anything that is signed, anytime you need a CBA question or general hockey information, you got to bring in Statboy Steven.
Hey, guys. 2-year extension for McDavid, which means we get to do all of this again in 2 years when he goes into the final year of his contract. But deep down inside, we all knew he wasn't signing with the Rangers, right? Because he's way too young to sign as a veteran with the Rangers.
Oh, yeah, no. Now he'll sign when everyone's on the wrong side of 30 after this.
Yeah, I would even argue after this 2-year deal, he's still too young for the Rangers.
Hey, hold on. Messier came here on the wrong side of 30 and ended up winning the cup. So.
No, I mean the rest of the group's going to be on the wrong side of 30. Like, you're going to have Igor being a overpaid backup at that point, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Well, again, I found little reason to even talk about McDavid to the Rangers. I know everybody was kind of hoping on it, but that's not here nor there. He's staying put with the Edmonton Oilers. There it is right there. There's the banner. David signing a 2-year extension, basically 2 years extra on this contract he currently has. Phil, we're going to have a lot of thoughts on this, all of us. We'll go with you first. What are your thoughts on McDavid re-signing?
Again, like I said before, that's why I thought that there was the possibility of a short-term extension on the table for him. And I was saying that last week, and I predicted that McDavid would sign. I didn't think it would be by the start of the season, but as Frank Saravalli pointed out, today is the last day for contracts to have deferred payments in them. But that doesn't really apply to McDavid. That applies to someone else that they re-signed today. Mm-hmm. Jake Wallman at a 7-year deal worth $49 million for a $7 million AAV. I imagine that there are going to be deferred payments in that deal. So the Oilers wanted to go and kind of build a team up around McDavid and kind of, get everything going and get the cap space, because the cap's going to go up drastically in these next few years here. But, are we really going to see anything happen in Edmonton if they're going to give Jake Wallman, who I like, by the way? I'm not. Let me be very clear in saying this. I like Wallman. I think he can give you 18 to 20 minutes a game reliably and not hurt you in that regard. But $7 million is Vladislav Gavrikov money, and he just got that as a UFA. There is no world that Jake Wallman is anywhere near as good as Vladislav Gavrikov is. So for them to give him that type of money when they need to address depth up front, they need to address the problems that they have in net, because they still have Swiss cheese in net I mean, is Connor Ingram the savior there for them? Is that really what they're going with? Have they not learned their lesson? I mean, Ken Holland was bad enough. Is Stan Bowman going to continue to make the same mistakes Ken Holland made for the next however many years and then lose Connor McDavid? I mean, listen, if that's what they're going to do, good on them. But I like this deal for Edmonton. I don't like it for McDavid. But I will say this. He is committed to winning there. And you have to respect and admire that about him. He is like I think Matt, you just said it. They're giving him he's giving them every chance to win there. And if they don't get it done, then that's going to be one of the biggest failures in recent history in the NHL. Because you have a generational player, guy that's probably going to go down as a top 5 guy of all time. He gave you chance after chance after chance to build a team up. He took you to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals and recorded 75 plus points over 2 postseasons to get you there 2 years in a row, and you couldn't get the job done. And the biggest problem you guys had was staring you in the face for 6 years, goaltending, maybe even longer than that. And
wait, Cam Talbot wasn't the answer?
Oh, you mean Mikko Koskinen, Mike Smith, Jack Campbell, who they're paying dead money to?
Wasn't it Ben Scrivens at one point?
You could go through Calvin Pickard. It's not. No one is the answer there. That John Gibson was available, and they did nothing to get Gibson. Nothing. So you know what? I don't get it, but hey, good luck, Edmonton. I hope you guys can get it done. Just because I want to see McDavid win one so badly, because I want this bullshit talk about him not being the guy, being that, oh, you can't get it done in the playoffs. No, he can. It's the team around him that hasn't. And one guy is not a team. So I just want to see him get his cup and then go on. But I'll turn it over to somebody else. I've rambled long enough. So.
Yeah, Steven, why don't you take it from there? What do you think?
Yeah, look, it's pretty clear to me that McDavid gives Edmonton 2 extra years, and at the end of that deal, he walks. I don't see another extension, because if he wanted to stay longer, he would have signed for longer, right? Very favorable for Edmonton that he doesn't get a raise at all. It's the same AAV as his previous contract. But to Phil's point, they really need to do something to get over that hump, because I wouldn't be shocked if in 2 years we're looking at this Oilers team as the NHL equivalent of the Buffalo Bills. They might make the Stanley Cup final 3-4 years in a row without winning it.
It's truly amazing. You can't believe it, because Florida was able to get it done the second year. A lot of the teams that when they get it done, they go back. They usually get it done. The Edmonton Oilers, obviously in '84. The teams that go back to back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Matt, you alluded to this before. If you have any other thoughts, just rattling around right there, feel free to share.
No, I mean, it's basically a lot of what we already covered in the short time so far. I mean, it's like I said, listen, you got to give major credit to Connor McDavid, because this is a guy, if he hit the open market, he was easily getting $20 million. Like, he was easily resetting the market. But you know what? He went to the Oilers brass. He went to the Oilers high-ups. Like, listen, like, I care about this team. I want to win a championship here. And it's clear. I mean, you could see from the guy's just attitude. I mean, we all know, we can all point to the video of the video of him in the locker room during the 2024 finals, yelling and screaming, to get over the hump and to do better. They came up short again in 2025. And I mean, listen, like I said, he's giving this team every single chance to win with him. Because I mean, like I said, and even that's the point, which like what Steven brought up. Like, sure, it's a 2-year extension, but the AAV is exactly the same. Like, he'd even take an increased higher up, bump up in AAV at all. And then like to your point, Phil, like you mentioned with the defense, like with Jake Wallman re-signing for $7 million. Listen, I get that that the AAV is a bit high for Wallman at $7 million, and you brought up the Gavrikov one as a comparable. Listen, to me, I think both could be worth $7 million. I just think both are just different defensemen. Gavrikov's more that shutdown guy. I think they're paying Jake Wallman more for that, offensive ability, more of that puck movement ability. I think the biggest thing for them is because obviously you have Ekholm 1 year left at $6 million. That's one guy that you either have to re-sign or replace, and he's already at 35 years old. So how big of a contract extension do you want to give him? You already have Bouchard locked up for a couple years. I think the biggest one, and it's the most obvious one, is if they could somehow get out of that Darnell Nurse contract, because that's just an albatross atrocity of a contract. If you could get out of $9.25 million a year, I mean, you could easily reinvest that into either better forward depth in your bottom six, maybe one more key addition to the top six if you want to pair him along with McDavid, because I know we've all seen, Zach Hyman put up career numbers with him, but maybe if you want a little bit of a better improvement over Zach Hyman, you could go there. Like I said, you could either improve your bottom six, or you could really, solidify your defense by moving out a guy like Darnell Nurse and then bringing out one of the bigger guns, or maybe one of the more under the radar guys. I'm not really sure who's out there right now through trade, or maybe next year through free agency. But and then also, like you guys mentioned with the goalie, because again, are you winning with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard? You can get close, but those two guys, in my opinion, are not getting you over the line. So that's the big thing for me right now. It's that Darnell Nurse contract. If they could get out of it, then Edmonton, is a serious threat for not only this year but also next year coming up.
Yeah, and it's nice to see him take the team-friendly deal on this one. You kind of wish more people did that, right, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into that more. Like Phil was saying, though, at the top, it's just like you got to respect the fact that he's taking this kind of money and taking this kind of term to try and let the team win around him. Like both, Phil, like everyone has said, I should say at this point, it's like now it comes down to, can they actually execute and build the right team around him? And even with the money now that Kaprizov got, like, there's an argument that Draisaitl is underpaid significantly. So you have those two on relatively cheaper contracts than you probably thought you would have them on. Now you got to build the team around them. And like Phil said before, it's a failure if you don't win. I don't know what they're going to do about the goaltending situation. I mean, that's just an annual conversation at this point. But like Matt said, I mean, if they could get Nurse off that $9.25 million deal, that could help open things up with shifting things around with the team. I don't know how you open it up, but Ekholm's another contract that comes off the book. So there is flexibility coming a little bit on top of the cap rising. But, again, really the main thing is you just have to respect that he's giving them a chance to win. And now when he leaves in 2 years, like Steven said, you can't really be mad if you're an Oilers fan. Unless, like, the only person you can be mad at is management, because that means they failed. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and look, what does Edmonton do now with the savings that you just gave them? Well, yeah, as you guys mentioned, them paying Jake Walman, but you gotta now the pressure's on the team. Now you got to deliver. Stuart Skinner at times last year looked like he was gonna right the ship and be the goalie that's gonna carry them to a Stanley Cup Finals, and then didn't. It's that simple. I don't know if there's that magic carpet ride that's in them again this year, because I mean the West has got a lot of good teams in there. What happens if they go up against the Avalanche? What happens if they go up against maybe like who knows? Maybe Vegas
Dallas
is right. What is Dallas? That's the hard part about that one, Steven.
Yeah,
I don't know what Dallas is.
So, Mark, you mentioned Colorado. Colorado has like no depth ever since they won their Stanley Cup.
Mhm.
They paid their guys bigger deals, and unfortunately, the cost of that was that their bottom six is no longer effective enough to make a run all the way to the final, right? The West, I think the West is pretty much it runs through Edmonton, because none of the teams, Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, maybe Vegas, but all those teams have flaws that the Oilers will expose, right?
Mhm.
And the East has run through Florida for the last half decade and through the Florida Panthers for the last couple of years. I think the more interesting conference this upcoming season is going to be the East, because the Florida Panthers are without Barkov potentially for a whole season, and Kachuk is going to miss a large chunk. If the Edmonton Oilers make it again to a final where they play anyone but the Florida Panthers, that's probably their best shot at winning it.
Yeah. I would definitely agree there, but I'm going to sit here and right now don't discount Florida.
Oh no,
No.
because
Kachuk's going to be back by the Olympics.
yeah,
And Barkov, usually in hockey, from what we've seen historically, is that ACLs are usually about a 6-month timeline.
yeah, but Phil, they have to make a decision now, right? Florida, with the new LTIR rules, if you want to get cap relief for the full contract, you put a player on season-ending injured reserve, which means he cannot come back even if he's healthy. The
All
new
right, so
LTIR rules.
He'll be. I'm going to tell you right now. He'll be playing in the playoffs.
Okay,
And
then
if he's
okay,
not,
but no,
then they'll
hold,
just
hold
get him
on,
off
Evan,
him.
Evan, hold on. So with the new rules, that means that they only get 3.8 million in cap relief for Barkov
That's enough.
instead of 10. Yeah,
That's enough.
but I was talking to someone else a couple of days ago. I'm shocked that Jack Roslovic is still unsigned. I would not be surprised if he goes to Florida and puts up a 30-goal season. With the way Florida squeezes the best out of players,
I don't even think they need him. Mackie Samoskevich is going to have a massive year for them. Watch.
yeah.
Trust me on that.
And while Barkov is out, I wonder how much of how much of an improvement Lundell's going to see in his game.
He's
in
another
a
one
big-
that's
in-
probably
in a
going to
bigger
step
role.
up. It's next
Yep.
man up in Florida. It always is.
Yep.
I'm telling you,
That'll be
just don't sleep on this team. They are the champs for a reason. I'm telling you right now, everybody's talking about the Lightning and how that opens up the division for them. The Florida Panthers do not care about the division. They don't.
No,
All
they
they
don't.
need to do is get to the playoffs. Then they know that they have a chance as good of, if not better, chance than anyone else that's out there right now.
Like, can you imagine if this team, the Panthers, this is, and we're gonna stay on McDavid in a second because there's other questions that I have for this one. But can you imagine if they make let's just assume wild card 1 is the one that faces the Metro. I'm not sure if they lose a game until the conference finals. That's how much the Metro. You got to look at them and go that they're weak right now, because the Metro. You could, if the Florida Panthers went through, let's say the New Jersey Devils won the division 5. There you go, right there. Sorry, Devils fans. Florida's mowing right through you, especially with Barkov back and healthy and Kachuk. And then you have after that Carolina, because they'll win their first round series because they always do. 5. Oh wait, it's the second round, so Carolina might get 2 games, maybe even 4-7. This is where the Panthers, they just need to get in. Their first time they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, that's all they wanted to do, and then they beat the best team in NHL regular season history. And then the second time around, they won the division. They beat the President's Trophy winner team, and then this last time they didn't have home ice advantage basically until the Stanley Cup Finals.
Until the Stanley Cup Final, yeah.
Yeah.
But Mark, and I'll say one more thing, and then we'll turn back to.
Well, they didn't even have it, by the way, in the Stanley Cup Finals. My bad.
Oh, but we'll go back to Connor McDavid. But I wanted to say one thing. You just brought it up. The NHL needs to go back to 1 through 8 in the playoffs. I'm so sick and tired of
this format.
I'm so sick and tired of these divisional brackets.
Been saying it for a while.
Yeah.
Well, do you know who's really tired of the divisional brackets? The LA Kings. Because, well, let me just look up what they're going to do at the end of the year.
Yeah.
First round knockout.
And they're a worse team now than they were this time last year, now that they've lost Gabriel.
Yeah.
So if it was 1 through 8 in the East last season, it would have been Washington, Montreal, Toronto, New Jersey, Tampa, Ottawa, and Carolina, Florida.
So Carolina would have been knocked down the first round.
Carolina would have been swept in the first round.
Yeah, but then you would have had everybody complaining, oh, Carolina didn't get a chance to blah, blah, blah. There's always a complaint in everything.
It should just be the 2 division winners get 1 and 2, and then the rest of the spots are 3 through 8, and that's it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter regardless of conference.
I would do that, but the NHL wants their brackets. That's what they're emphatic about.
But that's what the 1 through 8 would have been last season anyway, because the Capitals are 1, Toronto is 2. So those are the 2 division winners.
No, yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying, all All I think the only teams that should be guaranteed top spots are the division winners, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
All right, I'm going to ask this question, throw it out there for everybody. So McDavid right now, he's 28 years old. He turns 29 in January 13th. That's when he does it. So his 29 year is going to be next year, the second year of the deal. He's going to be 30 years old. Matt, I'm going to start this with you. Does this affect his future contract situations, or is he still going to sign an 8-year ungodly amount AAV after this is all said and done?
No, I don't see a reason why it would affect his later contract extension talks. I mean, unless he gets a season-ending injury or a career-ending injury. I mean, yeah, if that's the case, then yeah, that totally affects it, because then why would you give him, an 8-year deal, or actually by that time, because of the new CBA, it's actually going to be a 7-year deal if you extend with the Oilers, or if you go to free agency, it's going to be a 6-year deal maximum. So yeah, I don't see why that would like I said, I don't see that why it would affect anything unless he gets a career-ending injury, because he's still going to be there. He's still going to put up crazy amount of points. He might collect a couple Hart trophies along the way as well. Also, if you include the fact that the guy's improved his defensive game from the last couple of years, I mean, that's just another added bonus. And I mean, yeah, the guy's going to be dominating. He's going to be putting up a lot of extra points. So yeah, I mean, and obviously we'll see if he picks up a cup here along the way in those final 2 years, then yeah, I mean, we'll see either if he extends in Edmonton or if he hits the open market. But like I said, if he hits the open market, like I said, he's going to get another contract, a big contract extension easily. Like I said, as long as he doesn't get a career-ending injury, then that shouldn't affect anything.
Steven, do you think this is going to affect his contracts in the future? I mean, would you still pay him, say, $20 million for 7 years? By the way, thanks for the correcting me on that one, Matt.
Well, the salary cap is going to be $120 million by the time this contract ends. So who knows how much he's going to sign for? He's going to be 31. A 7-year deal takes him to 38. He could easily sign for 23, 24 million. The most he could sign for with 120 million salary cap is 24 million.
I would not be shocked if he got it.
No, it's 20%. It's 20% of the of the cap that can go to one player. What would be interesting to me, Mark, is if he signs a 6-year deal with another team, or if they're going to do another sign and trade, which I think the NHL is going to ban anyway in the next 12 months, because it's been happening way too much in the last couple of years. And it pretty much negates the benefit that the current team has on signing a player. But yeah, 7 years, signing in 2028, he's going to get the richest deal in NHL history, even at 7 years.
Yeah, because that there's got to be people out there today that are going, because I mean, I'm one of them, to be honest, saying, how does he not get the richest deal in NHL history, Phil?
I think he's going to. I don't see any way that he doesn't at this point. I just think that there's obviously, like I said, he gave them basically 3 years to just get everything in order and build up a team. And I mean, there's a possibility that if things are going well, then he could, say, hey, you know what, we didn't win, but I think we're very close. And then at that point, they have some things cleared up. Maybe they can get rid of a Darnell Nurse or move someone else, and then they could get the, they can get the goaltender they need and all the other players that they need. Then maybe they can win at that point. I mean, it's obvious that he likes being here. You got to remember, Connor McDavid is somebody that is not one of those I want all the attention and the limelight type personalities. Like, he's very much the guy that wants to just go on the street, be able to go out in public and not be recognized. Somewhere like Toronto, that's not happening. New York, maybe he could get away with that because they just the attention to detail hockey here is just not the level that it is with Toronto. But it's a different type of attention here. And Victor, no, they're not just a goalie away. They're multiple pieces away. There's definitely some middle six depth. I mean, if Isaac Howard comes out and has like a Calder type season, which some, including myself, think that he can do, then that's one of the pieces that I think that they're missing. But I think that they're missing some legitimate top end depth. They're missing some other players that can definitely help them, and they are missing a goalie too. But it's just they need to figure things out in Edmonton, and that's basically what he's doing. But in terms of his next deal, I'd be shocked if that's not a max percentage deal if he signs with another team. If he stays in Edmonton and he gets that extra year, maybe that can bring the AAV down just a little bit. But if he goes elsewhere for a 6-year deal, I think that AAV is going to be at max.
I mean, right now, if I was head of the NHLPA, I'd be like shaking my head because that was one of those deals that really would have helped. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of happier that McDavid is, me personally, that McDavid is still with Edmonton, and maybe finally they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup. But I mean, I can't remember the last time a team we had the Buffalo Bills analogy earlier, but a team went to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and lost all 3. It doesn't happen. But as far as the Players Association thing goes, I've been beating this drum the entire time. He was going to get 17.1. He's not going to take a dime, but less than that. And now he pulls the Crosby, gets the team-friendly deal. And one thing I said for Crosby is, thank God his number is 87 and not 12. Otherwise, it would have been like, yeah, I'm going to take more money than that. Well, they could have gotten 12 million. I just realized my folly in that metaphor. But I mean, they got 2 years to do this. So are they going to win Stanley Cup in the next 2 years, Matt?
It's a possibility. I mean, like Steven said, I mean, right now when you look at the West, they are arguably one of the better teams in the West. Because I mean, you look at the other teams. Dallas. Okay, they added Mika Rantanen last year at the trade deadline, but again, their bottom 6 is still not great. Their defensive core isn't really great either, outside of guys like Lindell, Heiskanen, and other guys like that. So. Yeah, I mean, listen, they're a good team, but Edmonton does match up well against them. I mean, they just beat them in 2 straight Western Conference Finals. You had Vegas there, of course. They added Mitch Marner. Colorado is still, a very good team with guys like McKinnon and Makar still locked up. So they do have a solid shot, and we just stated, they're back-to-back Western Conference champions. But like what we just pointed out, like what Phil just pointed out, you need to improve this team around them because I mean, right now on daily faceoff, you look at the first line: Leon Draisaitl, McDavid, Trent Frederick. Trent Frederick is nowhere near a first line caliber player, and that's not even including his albatross contract that the Oilers gave him. So yeah, I mean, you look at Draisaitl, McDavid, great. Second line: Mangiapane, Nugent Hopkins, Matthew Savoy. Matthew Savoy, some good potential. I like Andrew Mangiapane as well. Obviously, Nugent Hopkins for me is a fine second line center, but still, you would like to improve that second line. I know Zach Hyman is going to come back. Matisse Janmark will also come back. But then, like you said, this third line, Isaac Howard, Henry, and David Tomasek, again, you need to improve that. And then the fourth line, Podkolzin, Phillip, and Kasperi Kapanen. I think if you can improve on the fourth line center over Noah Phillip, I think could be a very good and very dangerous fourth line. And then, the D core for me, it's decent. Obviously with Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Kulak, and Ember say it's a very solid D pair. I mean, you could probably, trade for a couple guys, depth guys, to just improve that depth at the trade deadline. And then the biggest thing, like we all talked about, and it's the most obvious one, it's the goaltender. You have to improve over Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, because in my opinion, you are not going to win a cup with those two in net. I know Carter Hart's name has been thrown out around there. Do they maybe try to go after him and, add him to that rotation? I mean, we'll see. But like we were saying, they have a shot, but they definitely need to improve the roster around them. And because he just took this major discount, you would hope that Oilers management goes, okay, let's now utilize this money and let's actually surround McDavid with the right actual talent to actually complete this goal of bringing a championship back to Edmonton.
Yeah, and Matt, and this is the last thing I'll say before I have to drop, but the Oilers don't need to go out and get an elite goalie here. all they need is a goalie that's decent. A decent goalie can take this team to a cup, like Darcy Kemper did in Colorado.
Mhm.
Chicago won their first cup with Anthony Niemi in net, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just need a decent goalie that plays above average in the playoffs. You don't
Yeah.
need a superstar goalie.
Bill Ranford, 1990 Oilers.
Yeah, like in the salary cap era, we've had Cam Ward, Anthony Niemi, Matt Murray twice, which still baffles me.
Yeah.
Jordan Binnington, Darcy Kemper, Aiden
Yeah.
Hill with Vegas,
Corey Crawford.
Corey Crawford.
Two.
Yeah, Corey Crawford got two as well. You know, Jonathan Quick never won a Vezina, but he has two cups and a Conn Smythe. You just need goalies to be decent enough and be for them to be able to elevate their game in the playoffs. And Stuart
Yeah.
Skinner's not going to do that. And yeah, I'm shocked that they didn't go after John Gibson. And if they go after Carter Hart, it will be the least surprising thing. Anyway, I have to drop. It was great talking about this. And I cannot believe it's only a 2-year deal, Phil. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but I'm looking forward to having this whole conversation again in 2 years, guys.
Countdown.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be doing that. Thanks, Steven.
Countdown's on.
Yeah.
Take
All
care,
right.
Steve.
And of course, that is our man, Statboy Steven, friend of the
Uh,
show. And again, Steven's I love Steven's line of that the Minnesota Wild are the side salad of the NHL. But
he leaves right before we chirp Igor's deal.
well, we got to go with one of these comments from NYR for Life who said this. And Phil, I'll start with you. Now that McDavid's off the market, do you see Drury feeling pressured to resign Panarin?
No, he's not. He's not in the boat of Kaprizov. And they were talking about this on up in the Blue Seats, the Larry Brooks, Brian Boyle, Molly Walker podcast from the Post. Larry brought it up that he's not like a Kaprizov type, and that they shouldn't be pressured to do anything with him. It's really going to depend on like how this year goes. They'll have to study the market. I mean, Jack Eichel's still on the market. Some people think that he'll get re-signed soon. I've heard somewhere in the $13-14 million range if he does re-sign. But I wouldn't. And I really wouldn't feel pressured because honestly, this team, I don't have a great outlook for this team. I don't think that they're going to be all that good. I don't trust the defense. Larry Brooks said the same thing when I was watching the latest episode this morning, came out a couple of days ago. But, the defense is not good. The bottom six doesn't look like it's going to give you much production. So you're going to depend on your goaltending, your top pair in your defense, and your basically your stars to win. So you're going to have an effort kind of like the 2005-2006 Rangers in order to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see that coming because I don't think Igor can get back to that 21-22 form. I don't. Not with this defense in front of them. If they were a better team, a better unit, the only thing I'll say in that regard is that there's going to probably be a first-year coach bump with Sullivan. And I think Sullivan's system will be better. But I wonder about the personnel that he has because he's getting rid of the guys that are better equipped to play the type of game that he wants to play. Like, if he's smart and he wants a good, productive bottom six center, then Noah Laba should make this team. And Juuso Parssinen should have nothing to do with it. Brett Berard should make this team because Brett Berard plays the exact type of game that he wants to play. Carson Soucy, Urho Vakanainen, those guys should be nowhere near an NHL roster. Scott Morrow, because this team lacks puck movers outside of Adam Fox, should have made this roster. But the coaching decisions are, in terms of the lineup and personnel, have not been good so far. I understand Gabe Perreault not being in the NHL right now. Let him cook in Hartford. Let him marinate. Let him get his time. But some of the other guys that Sullivan is leaving off the roster are not going to help him play the type of game that he wants to play. Because if that's the way he wants to play, and these are the guys that he's going to war with, he's going to have to change things up because it ain't going to work with someone like that on the roster.
Yeah, Matt, do you think they're going to get pressured and have to re-sign Panarin now?
They shouldn't, but I mean, if they should and if they will, that's obviously two different conversations. But to me, just looking at it, they absolutely should not. Like, again, like, listen, I respect Artemi Panarin, what he's done here. He's had a very good tenure as a New York Ranger. Obviously, put up, obviously he had that crazy 120-point season 2 seasons ago. But for me, again, why should I be pressured into re-signing a guy who has not showed up come playoff time? When the games get tough and the guy just doesn't show up and he goes to the playoffs, why should I be pressured to re-sign you? Like, again, it just doesn't make sense. And for me, you're bringing in Mike Sullivan, right? Obviously, Mike Sullivan, he's the type of coach. He wants to play this aggressive north-south hockey type system. Well, again, when you look at Artemi Panarin, when you look at his game style is more east-west. It's not a lot of back checking. It's not a lot of forechecking. It's not a lot of hitting. And again, I get that not all of your players are going to suit that system, and I get that a lot of the superstar quote-unquote players, they're not going to be exactly those, high aggressive hitting guys. Like, I mean, like you look at a guy like Matthew Tkachuk, right? Matthew Tkachuk is one of the outliers, right? He's one of those guys that put up 100-point points and play that aggressive type of style. And again, like, I'm not asking that out of Artemi Panarin because I know that's not his game style. But to me, like, Panarin, he plays the wrong type of hockey for me. And again, we've seen his style rub off on other guys like Alexis Lafreniere, who, when Alexis Lafreniere broke into the league, he actually wasn't a bad defensive player. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. He wasn't anywhere near a Selke-type caliber player, but he wasn't as bad as what we've seen these last 2 years. So for me, I would be in no rush to re-sign him. And to me, because like what Phil brought up with this team, with this upcoming season, and by the way, how preseason just ended, I already didn't have any optimism going into this year. But the way I watched those last 2 games, especially the Bruins one, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I have no faith in this team going forward. I mean, like you said, like what Phil said, you're basically relying on this top 6, which again has a lot of question marks, and Eagle, who has his own question marks, and one good defensive pairing to drag this team along. I do not see it. And I mean, like, for me, like what I was saying, if this team is out of the playoffs come trade deadline, you have to look into trading Artemi Panarin because, again, I'm not losing him for anything.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want him back next year. So if I don't want him back, I'm not letting him walk free agency for nothing. I'm at least getting something of value for Artemi Panarin. And again, like, when you look at the upcoming free agents, and I know we'll probably get to Jack Eichel in a little bit, I know there's been rumors that Eichel might be looking to extend in Vegas. And listen, if he does, great, because obviously he fits there. He's won a cup there. But for me, if I'm looking at Jack Eichel, or if I'm looking at this from Jack Eichel's perspective, I look at Kirill Kaprizov, who just signed for $17 million. I just saw Connor McDavid come off the market and took an under-the-radar.
Does he do what Connor McDavid does?
$5 million. If I'm Jack Eichel, I'm looking at this opportunity and saying, wow, Connor McDavid is no longer on the market this year. I could seriously take serious advantage of the open market this year, and I could get myself a pretty big bag. Because, again, he's going to be looking to get more than Kirill Kaprizov. And in my opinion, he deserves a bigger AAV than Kaprizov. Because, again, guys won a Stanley Cup. Guys arguably one of the better two-way centers around the league. I mean, he put up I believe he put up a career high in points last year as well in Vegas. Yeah, 94 points.
Yeah,
so
94.
If I'm Jack Eichel, I'm like, and again, it's his decision if he wants to resign in Vegas. But if I'm Eichel, I'm like, I need to seriously take advantage of the open market, considering that McDavid's no longer a free agent this year.
Yeah, but crunching that one, think about this one. Who's going to win a Stanley Cup first? The Vegas Golden Knights or the New York Rangers? It's going to be Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, Vegas is obviously a lot closer. The one thing I would say is I kind of spoke over Matt before. Sorry about that, Matt. But, he could do what McDavid did. I mean, again, you got to remember, Jack Eichel is one of the very best players in the game, as you pointed out. He finished 5th in both Hart and Selke voting last year while putting up 94 points. Like, if he goes and signs a 2-year deal and then goes to free agency, or even maybe a 3-year deal and goes to free agency, or maybe even signs a 1-year deal and then goes to free agency next year when the cap goes up a bit, you talk about, the guy being the top of the. I'm not. Well, that last. Oh man, I'm not. I'm not highlighting that one. I can't highlight that one. I'm sorry. But yeah, you talk about him being the guy on the market, and that's actually a great point, Matt. But what if he goes to market like next year or the year after or the year after that? Let's just say he signs for 1 year and then he goes back, and the max that he can get goes up to, I don't know, an $18 million contract. He can get that, whatever that max is, and he could cash in and get more than Kaprizov like he's looking for. And if he hits the market, there's 30, let's just say there's 29 or 30 teams, because the Oilers will have their 2 guys. They're not going to go after him, obviously. But there's 30 teams that are going to go after him at that point. So, but yes, it's insane to think about that Jack Eichel can go and reset a market for a little bit. And then Connor McDavid a year or 2 later can come up and hey, $22 million for me.
Yeah.
Please. He goes to another team. I mean, yeah, I don't think Eichel's coming to New York either, Van Walen. I don't.
No.
I think that I think he probably will re-sign in Vegas long term. But there is the possibility that he could just pull what McDavid did, because nobody thought for a while that McDavid was going to do this. And McDavid wanted to win there. But Eichel could turn around and be like, hey, you know what? I can do this and this. Or better yet, look at what's happening with Vegas right now and Alex Pietrangelo. Like, wait until that comes off the books, because that's going to be money that they could use. And yeah, it's long-term injury reserve. He gets 3.81. That's all that they're dealing with an $8 million cap. But think about that when that comes off the books. Like, what Vegas can do, because you're going to have Jeremy Lauzon at $2 million. That'll come off. Ben Hutton, $975K. Then you got Brandon Saad and Riley Smith at $2 million apiece. And then Eichel's $10 million. And then you have Pavel Dorofeyev that you're going to probably have to give $6 to $7 million to. I mean, if Eichel wanted to be a trooper and give them flexibility, he could turn around and do the same thing.
By the way, just to mention this, when McDavid is going to be a free agent again in 2027, expiring contracts that year. Carlson, that's not going to be an issue. Drew Doughty, Tyler Seguin, okay. Mark Stone, he's going to be expiring. Kito Kucherov is going to be expiring. Cale Makar, Sidney Crosby, and by the way, you mentioned Alex Pietrangelo, but that's when he'll officially be off the books, and Quinn Hughes. So 2027 potentially could be another big free agent year again. But Phil, to go into what this contract could mean is that maybe Vegas turns around, looks over at Eichel and says, McDavid took 12.5. Think you might take 12.5? That could be a possibility right there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be just a little more than Marner, and centers are more valuable than wingers on the open market. And honestly, I mean, I know Marner had a 102-point season, and he's a Selke caliber player himself. But is there anyone that really believes that Mitch Marner is a better player than Jack Eichel?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So if you turned around and if you were Vegas's front office and you went to Eichel and you said, "No, McDavid just took the $12.5 million. We want you to take the $12.5 million." I mean, really, you can kind of push that on Eichel. I don't know if he'll necessarily agree to it, but here's the issue: what is he in comparison to Kirill Kaprizov?
See, that's why Kaprizov's contract is now a monkey wrench thrown into every single negotiation, because everybody's going to look at the Kaprizov number, then you're going to look at the McDavid number. You got to figure out.
That's not true.
There's a happy number with a lot of this. By the way, Joe's saying right here, the next pipe dream is that the Hughes brothers all meet up on the Rangers. No,
Yeah, I
No.
think Joe's being sarcastic there, but I mean,
I know Joe's being sarcastic. He's definitely trolling right there, and a good job.
yeah, that is not happening.
However, how many Ranger fans are going to say that?
Yeah, there will always be those accounts like a mutual of mine on Twitter. It was like a prediction repost that he said, and then it was like, my prediction is that all the McDavid to New York Rangers accounts rename their accounts, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it works. And then he was like, who's next? I was like, I don't know. I mean, who knows who's next at this point?
This went from being one of the dullest off seasons to one of the craziest early portions of preseason / camp. Because I can't even say McDavid is swimming in money on this deal. But there's still a couple other headlines to cover right here because Matt, Noah Laba, he's continuing to impress with the New York Rangers. Should they keep him up?
So for me, I've kind of gone back and forth on this, and I think for me though, I've come to a decision where, for me personally, I would start Laba in Hartford, and that's not saying that he didn't deserve to make the roster, because I fully believe he did deserve to make the roster. Like, he had a good enough preseason to take that 3C spot away from Yusuf Parson. For me, though, how I look at it, and this kind of goes hand in hand from what we saw with Victor Mancini last year, and I'm not saying that Noah Laba is at Victor Mancini's level, but we saw how well Victor Mancini played last year in the preseason for the Rangers, and that forced him to a spot on the opening night roster. And then, he kind of had some up and down moments, and then he ended up getting sent down, and obviously we know that he ended up getting traded to Vancouver as part of the JT Miller trade. For me, though, listen, like I said, I think Laba deserves that roster spot. For me, though, I would rather him go down to Hartford, tear it up as either the 1C or the 2C down there, along with a guy like Gabe Perreault and even Brett Berard if he does get sent down as well. I would rather him go down there, tear it up, over marinate a bit, and then if he's tearing it up, which I anticipate he will do, then the Rangers could call him up, around maybe the 20 to 30 game mark or something, and then he could slide into that 3C spot. Because for me, listen, if he's going to start the season on the Rangers opening that roster, obviously he's not playing anything harder than a 3C role, right? And he shouldn't, because I don't think he's good enough right now to be a 2C, and he's not a 1C caliber type player. But for me, if he's going to start the opening night roster, he needs to be at minimum a 3C, and he needs to be getting consistent minutes. Because if we're going to see things like him getting demoted down to the fourth line, or him only getting 5 minutes a night, to me, that's just not worth it for him. So like I said, for me, if he makes the opening night roster, cool. I have no problem with it. For me, though, I would just rather him start in Hartford, tear it up, let him get his confidence up a bit more, and then, like I said, if he's tearing it up, which I expect him to do, call him up around the 20 to 30 game mark and slide him in on that 3C role. And also for me, I look at it like this, right? If you're the New York Rangers, right, Noah Laba being your 3C should not be the difference between you being a good team and a bad team. If that's the case, then we have serious issues. And I mean, we already have serious problems, as we know. But if that's the case, then we know there's problems there. So like I said, for me, if Laba makes it, cool, I have no problem with it. For me, though, I would just rather send him down to Hartford.
I'm gonna jump in, and this was another thing Larry Brooks brought up, and they talked about this. And Molly asked both Brian Boyle and Larry Brooks about this very issue, and Larry Brooks was very disappointed in the organization because he feels that Parsonen came over, didn't do a whole lot, which I agree with. He didn't. He really did nothing to impress anybody. But it was somehow that Parsonen came into camp and saw himself as an incumbent. Like, how did you come into camp thinking that you were some sort of incumbent? And I got to give Drury flack for this, because I think he enabled it by giving him that contract. Like, why would you go and do that when this guy didn't do a whole lot to prove anything? And this is another thing that I don't like about Chris Drury, is he's turned around and he's doubled down on some terrible, terrible deals. Like, he brought in Nemeth, realized that was a mistake, and then got rid of him. Okay, great. But the problem here is is that he traded for Susie, and I said this to you and Evan in our DM. Excuse me. That trading for him was not the biggest issue I had. It was doubling down and not getting rid of him when you had a chance to do so after you realized that this guy was objectively terrible. And now your staff is turning around and putting him on your second defense pairing because he played with Will Borgen in Seattle, and that pairing was objectively bad then. How are they going to be any better? Like that Borgen-Miller pairing was all right, and it had its ups and downs. How is that pairing going to be any better with Carson Soucy instead of Keandre Miller, for all his giveaways, is still a world better defenseman than Carson friggin' Soucy? Like, I don't get it. And then just, I really don't get it. And then you bring in Taylor Radish on top of that. And listen, again, this goes back to my previous point about ill-equipping your team to play the style of game that you want to play. So you brought in a guy that's not a burner to play an up-tempo, fast, and aggressive, in-your-face style of hockey. Taylor Radish does not fit that in any capacity. He's not a bruiser. He's not a burner with his speed. And he's not a guy that's amazing on the forecheck. What does this guy do? I'm not saying he's a bad player by any means. I think he fits somewhere. I just don't think it's in New York. And if you don't have Laba on this team, you don't have a guy that skates very well. Like Steven said, he's probably one of the better skaters on the team. Top 5, probably. And that's sad, because a guy that I didn't even expect to be that great of a skater at this level this early is now one of the top 5 best skaters on the team. Like Matt said before, if that's the case, and the difference between this being a potentially good team and just being a very mid to just ass cheeks type team is Noah Laba playing a 3C, then you've got a shit ton of problems. Like, we're probably looking more at a team that could be closer to a lottery team than a team that could be a bubble team. So I don't know where they're going with this. I don't get why we had to be married to players that we got in trades that really hadn't worked out. Looking at you two, Will Borgen, looking at you two there. So I just, the front office has done nothing but shoot itself in the foot outside of the Vladislav Gavrikov deal. And for me, like, I just don't know what direction this team is going to go in after this season, because this year could be a year where they end up in the lottery if they're that bad. And I could see that happening.
Yeah, but then they're going to get Gavin McKenna and put him on the 5th line, as I've said before. Because he's going to have to earn his ice time, Phil. You got to earn your ice time if you're Gavin McKenna. And by the way, he'll play on power play 3, and he'll be the 7th attacker when the goaltender leaves the ice, because that's the way you develop number 1 overall draft picks. That we're in year, 5 of Alexei Lafreniere, and nobody knows what he is. Nobody has a clue, especially Alexei Lafreniere. I mean, I hear that the guy's got a good attitude, because I know people that played golf with him this year, and he's optimistic about a lot of things. But, now he's finally given at least some of the reins to the team. This is why you got to turn away from Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin. They're the old guard. Move on from them. Because even if it hurts, like, again, I go back to this all the time. The Florida Panthers made that decision. They did it with Jonathan Huberdeau, who's the best player that they ever drafted at the time. And look, and now 3 Stanley Cup Finals appearances later and 2 Stanley Cups, potentially a 3rd, and they're right back there again. So it's just now, and you look at Jonathan Huberdeau, who's really struggling in Calgary. He's been better the last 2 years, I think, but he was a shade of what he was when he was a Panther and arguably an MVP candidate in 21-22. That was back when he was Justin Huberdeau, by the way, if you guys remember correctly. But no, the Drury's got to figure out what identity for this team. And we've asked this question, should Chris Drury be the one that's making that decision? He's got 9 months to make that decision. Go ahead, Matt.
But like for me, Mark, and this is something that both like me and Evan have been banging the drum about. When this team got manhandled by the Panthers in the conference final 23-24, right? This is why for me I wanted to go into retool mode because looking at where this roster was going in terms of play style and in terms of age, there was no future for this team. And we all knew Igor Shesterkin's contract was coming up for renewal. And I said, looking at the past years and the past core of this team, the mistake was locking up Lundqvist to that long-term deal because it hampered you in terms of what you can actually do with addressing the roster. And again, when you looked at this roster, and like I said, in terms of the age of this roster and in terms of the play style of this roster, and knowing that this group of players was not good enough to get you over the hump, this is why I said, why am I going to lock myself up to a long-term deal with Igor Shesterkin's contract? And again, we know that the key to not building a Stanley Cup champion team is by overpaying your goaltender. And again, this is not me saying that Igor Shesterkin is a bad goalie. He is not. I think he's very good, but he's not worth $11.5 million a year. And this is why now we're stuck in this situation where the team's old, they don't have a direction, and we're sitting here, and especially after, a guy like Connor McDavid just comes off the market, we're sitting here saying, okay, now what do we do? But if this team was actually smart and they were proactive and they looked at that 23-24 season and said, okay, this was our time to go in. We didn't complete our goal winning cup. Okay, let's take a step back for a couple of years. Let's retool. Let's trade Igor Shesterkin. Let's get rid of Jacob Trouba. Let's trade Chris Kreider. Let's see if we can move off from a guy like Mika Zibanejad's contract. But they didn't do any. But then they didn't do any of that. And then when Chris Drury had the second chance of making up for his failures in the offseason, because again, as a general manager, as a front office personnel, usually when you fuck up, you don't get a second chance of redemption. Chris Drury was handed a golden opportunity second chance by the Anaheim Ducks. They said, I want to take Jacob Trouba's shitty contract. I want to take it off you. And they did. And then instead of saying, okay, we got our second chance to redo what we fucked up, Chris Drury said, no, let's double down. Let's give Igor Shesterkin a shitty contract extension. And now we're sitting here with, and then on top of that, they doubled down with JT Miller adding training from. And again, JT Miller for me is not the problem. It's his age and the contract. That's the main reason why I didn't want to trade for JT Miller. But now we're sitting here, with what do they do with Artemi Panarin? Okay, they have JT Miller. They have Mika Zibanejad. What are we doing with Alexei Lafreniere? You have Adam Fox, who's in the beginning of his prime. You have so many unanswered questions, and you have no idea about the direction of where this team is going, because you simply chose to double down on a core and on a roster that you knew wasn't good enough to win a Stanley Cup. When, like I said, instead, they should have just taken a step back after the 23-24 season and say, okay, let's reevaluate, let's get rid of some guys, and let's go into like a small 2-3 year retool. Because for me right now, this should be the second year of a retool. But instead, we're sitting here and saying that this team might be a freaking lottery team. I mean, but again, this is what happens when you choose to be reactive instead of proactive.
Now, by the way, and that's a great one you got right there, Dave. But by the way, the first person to thank for that, really Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba should have been moved at the draft last year. He got wind of a trade to Detroit, then said, nah, put Detroit on my no trade list. He decided to play hardball, and then he came in. I don't care what spin on any story is. That man did not care. As soon as they got just manhandled by Florida at Madison Square Garden after 3 weeks, it was clear the Rangers were not going to be what they were last year. And then you give up back-to-back 40-shot games on a West Coast trip, and Chris Drury then saw enough. And then, of course, everybody's going, how dare he quit on us? Well, you almost lost to the Montreal Canadiens, which if you project it at the end of the year, that wasn't that bad of a loss, the one where Kakko scored in the final minute. You go to the beginning of the year where the Canadiens were not what they were. And you go, well, how did you almost lose to that team?
Their second half was unbelievable. But.
Right. That's why, again, first off, by the way, again, that's why the East is a total crapshoot. I could sell you guys on the Rangers finishing anywhere from 1st to 6th in this division. That's how much of a crapshoot the Metro is. Never mind the Eastern Conference, because Sullivan could coach him up, could get him to win a division. Who knows? Maybe even Igor, maybe he returns to 21-22 form. Not bloody likely, but I actually think he's seen the best out of Igor Shesterkin for the rest of his career. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I mean, his best days might be like past him. I still think he can be like top 10 in terms of goaltenders. I don't know about number one again. And if he needs his defense to be great in front of him to put up those numbers, then he's clearly not worth that $11.5 million that he's getting. And that's, again, but all this comes back to that contract. And that by the way, I'll answer this right now since I just saw this. Colin Stevenson confirmed that both Panarin and Miller are starting tomorrow. I saw that on Twitter. Came probably about like 15 minutes ago. I think he tweeted it. But he is he's going to be on there, Adam, or they'll be on there, I should say. But you went and you signed Igor to that deal. Not only, and it handcuffed you, but you did it at a time where you had no idea of what this team was going to be. And that's one of the biggest things that I hated about that deal, is that he did it in a time where there was a lot of turmoil going around. You didn't know what was going to – you did it on the same day that you traded your captain. Like, you didn't establish a direction. You traded a captain away. You didn't have direction at that point. Like, where was the direction? If you're dealing your captain, what kind of signal are you sending to your locker room, to your organization, and to everyone else out there about what they should think of you? Mm-hmm. Not a good one. It's not a good one. So
and that's where the Parson thing comes in too, because you got a guy that earned the job versus the guy that was given the job.
Well, it's not just that. It's just you dealt your captain away, though. Like, that's not a good sign. Unless and it's not like this was a Marty St. Louis for Ryan Callahan deal that they needed that one piece to help get them over the top and they were going for it all. No, it wasn't. It was we're dealing our captain off because we think our captain is awful at hockey and he caused a whole bunch of drama over the last 3-4 months, maybe even longer than that. So for me, like, everything boils down to that deal. If that deal never happened, you could have easily dealt Kreider away, said, hey, you know what? We don't need the cap space. We just want to get rid of this guy because we want to move on. And then you could have dealt Zibanejad. Maybe Zibanejad says, you know what? My best friend's gone. This team is going in a different direction. I want out. Okay, maybe he wants out. Then maybe Artemi Panarin is open to moving. And you know what you just did? You cleared about $30 million in cap space, and you established a direction to go in, which this team still hasn't done. We don't know what direction they're going in. We don't know what happened this year. We think it's going to be bad, but we don't know that for sure. Because unless you get Vezina caliber Igor, Norris caliber Fox, and you get a top six that is chugging on all cylinders, you're probably missing the playoffs. But if you need just solid defense in front of him, you're not worth $11 million.
Yeah.
Like Hasek.
Yeah. And you're not $3 million clear of the back-to-back Vezina Trophy and current reigning Hart Trophy winner. So it sounds like, again, it sounds like we're being incredibly negative, guys, but this is realistic. If you're telling me that the Rangers are what they were even 2 years ago, no, they'd be lucky if they're last year. And the attitude of the team, I keep going back to this, the attitude of the team in the month of December, when it was basically, we're going to try to get the GM fired, and they quit on the team. And if you go back, you don't believe me? Go back and look at the game versus the Devils before Christmas. That is one of the most embarrassing efforts a professional organization has ever put on a field, ice, pitch, whatever you want to call it. It's a joke. But they have to establish a new identity. And Phil, I'm not. And you want to add another one on there? They need Miller and Panarin to at least get 95 points each. 95, because I don't know if that Mika Zibanejad guy that we all remember right before COVID that scored 5 goals in a game was a budding superstar who scored 40 goals that season. He had over 90 points, I think, the next season after that, or 2 seasons after that, because he had the shortened season. I forget that exists every now and again. I don't think that guy's walking through the door anytime soon, because God only knows what he knows what he is at this point in his career. Is he a center? Is he a wing? Is he really going to win you board battles? Is he guys just going to take a one-timer and then go, I'm out of ideas? What is he? Matt, we've been kind of chewing up the scenery a little bit. If you got some words you want to throw in there.
I mean, on this topic, I mean, like I said, like I brought up, like there is no direction with this team. The direction is basically sit there and hope that you get a reclamation year out of Mika Zibanejad, which again is not likely. The hope is like what you said, Mark, that you get anywhere from 90 to 100 points from JT Miller and Artemi Panarin. The hope is that Vincent Trocheck rebounds to what he was from 23-24. Like the hope is that you hope that Alexis Lafreniere could actually take the next step and become the player of what we saw in the actual playoffs in 2024. You know, the hope is Will Cooley, you know, again takes the next step. But again, it's just like there's too many what if scenarios, and then that's not even including the fucking dog shit decor that Chris Drury's assembled with guys like Will Borgen, Carson Soucy, Euro Vakanainen, and Braden Schneider. Like, again, like there is no direction. Like I said, the direction is sit there and hope. And again, like I said, if a team has this many if scenarios, I'm sorry, you're not a good team. Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about that. I mean, you can't have this many questions and expect to make the playoffs. Listen, I don't know about Mika. I don't know what we're going to get from him. I don't know if his best days are behind him. I'm starting to think they are. But can he be what he was in those last 30 games with JT Miller, where he was a point per game winger? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if he can, that goes a long way. The real question is, what are you getting from Artemi Panarin? Mm-hmm. And what are you getting from Alexis Lafreniere? Because Alexis Lafreniere might be the biggest X factor in this entire offense right now.
Yep.
Because if he gives you like 25 to 35 goals and 60 to 70 points, then your top 6 looks a hell of a lot better. But I don't know what we're getting with him because he hasn't really even impressed me in preseason. I can't say that I was ever really fully impressed with him. And I mean, again, the defense and the bottom 6, we could talk about that to no end. But I mean, really what you got to focus in on is the guys that you're going to call upon to kind of carry on your offense. Like, and Kevin's pointing out here too, like, they're not using Lafreniere, even though Sullivan's saying that the pathway to more offensive production for someone like Alexis Lafreniere is more power play minutes. Okay, then why are you not using him there? Like, I don't think Trocheck's a great fit on power play 1, but I understand why they have him on there. Mm-hmm. And it's one aspect: faceoffs. Because what happens when you lose that opening faceoff?
You better recover that puck.
You better recover that puck quickly. Because you lose 30 or so seconds off that power play. Yeah. And that gives the first unit maybe about a minute to work with. Because at like that 30 seconds left mark, you're going to have to put power play 2 on there to give power play 1 the time to recover and to transition back into even strength play. Mm-hmm. So I get why Trocheck's there. But why is Mika Zibanejad there when that one-timer isn't doing what it did 2, 3, 4 years ago? And he's not the guy. All right, so his best season goal-scoring-wise, he played a lot in the bumper, too. Why is he not in the bumper?
No. We don't need to analyze that as much because that's been a question I've been asking for the last 2
You
years.
have no bumper play anymore.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I just think that this is another thing too. Like the fake one-timers for the passes. And now who is he going to do that with in front? Is that Will Cooley? Is that Vinny Trocheck there? Because Chris Kreider was the master of that, getting open to the backside of the net, and Mika Zibanejad has all the those little fake one-timers that he does to passes in front of the net. I mean, who's that guy now? I just think that if you're going to have that type of player there, you've got to be able to put in an optimal position to be able to succeed in terms of Lafreniere I'm talking about. And Zibanejad getting off power play 1, even though it's going to affect his overall numbers, I think that may be the way that they need to go.
Yeah, and guys, we could sit here all day with this. And Phil, by the way, I think you hit the nail on the head with that last bit, because we could go. What about their bottom 6? Yeah, what about their top 6? That's still a big question. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up with this last comment, or not exactly a comment. If you guys got any questions, throw it out there. We'll start the song right now. But let me throw this out as a discussion topic because I see Matt's wearing Linkin Park Hybrid Theory shirt. Is that easily their best album, Matt?
It's their best too. That and Meteora.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, for me, I like Meteora a little bit better than Hybrid Theory, but you can't go wrong with Hybrid Theory at all.
Yeah, I'll say Hybrid Theory was number 1, but when I really started getting into Linkin Park was when Meteora came out. So Meteora definitely has a soft spot for me, and that kind of helped me really through a really, really dark time. Oh yeah, I know we're gonna.
I mean, I'll put it to you this way: when you get songs that aren't that big, I think I will go with Hybrid Theory over Meteora anyway. I like a lot of the way Meteora is, how every song blends in the next one. But when you get songs like A Place for My Head and even
Points of Authority might be my favorite Linkin Park song.
But at least that was a single. Those are all that Meteor is pretty close to a just press play album. Put it in, press play, that's it.
I think both of those two are that type of way. I could no skip on both of those, or I could skip if I'm feeling if I'm pressed for time, if I'm driving somewhere, I could skip. But Hybrid Theory is definitely I love the themes on both of these albums. There's more of an angry type, angsty feel to Hybrid Theory, and then there's more of a somber, kind of distressed, maybe not depressed, but definitely there's a different tone to Meteora, and I think, and you're right, the songs flow great from one song to the next in each of these albums, and I think that's what makes an album great. I think flow really, when you're listening to an album, you want to have a great opener that keeps you locked in. Then you want to have 2 or 3 good to great follow-up songs, like Master of Puppets. When I think of great albums head to toe, Master of Puppets lays out everything to me perfectly. Battery gets you right in there. Then Master of Puppets is just an absolute masterpiece. The Thing That Should Not Be, arguably their most underrated song. I know over the last few weeks I've talked about that. Sanitarium is an absolute gem. Even though I know there's someone in the chat somewhere, I haven't seen him, that doesn't like Disposable Heroes. Heroes.
That's
Ryan. He does not like Disposable Heroes, but Disposable Heroes is a very, very good song in my opinion. And then Leper Messiah, incredible. Yeah. Orion tones things down just a little bit to bring you right back up for Damage Incorporated, which is just a frenzy to end that out.
I mean, Phil, we could talk about Metallica all day for their first 4 albums, and obviously, Ride the Lightning had a similar type of
You will
formula
do
that they used to it.
when I say back to the front.
But and I loved it when that was on Guitar Hero when they had that. But you also had because I mean, I talk about Justice in the same vein as the rest of them.
Another perfectly constructed album.
Perfectly constructed, and you look at other albums. Adam's asking right here. No, hey, this is why we play the song, guys, because we're trying to get a couple
get everything
in.
we can get out of you guys before we go.
I don't know. I think Gabe Perreault earned his time, but a little seasoning in Hartford isn't going to be the end of the world.
No, I get the justification for this. At least I understand the direction and the purpose and the end for the journey to here with Gabe Perreault. Like, they're trying to get him more minutes to get him acclimated, and I think they want him to work on his skating tip, which it's tough to do over the course of the season. But if at least if he can get adjusted to that speed of that game, like, he can come up and then have more of an impact. I think he just, coming out of college, coming straight to the NHL, you could definitely see he was a little overwhelmed at times.
Yeah.
So.
And Matt, your thoughts on Gabe Perreault, by the way?
This is kind of very similar to me with the whole Noah Lava discussion. I think for me, I would have had Gabe Perreault on the opening night roster for me, because I am not interested in watching a third line consisting of guys like Taylor Radish and Yusuf Parson. And Connor Shear, for me, I thought he earned his roster spot. So, and I don't know if they made that official yet, that they signed Sheary to a 1-year deal yet, but if he does,
it'll be any minute.
Yeah, it's going to be any minute by now. So I don't have a problem with Sheary making it. But for me, like I said, the whole Gabe Perreault discussion, it's similar to the whole Noah Lava discussion. Because for me, if he's coming up, at minimum, you have to play him on the third line. Like, I don't want to see him taking fourth line minutes and him playing 5 minutes a night. No, I want at minimum him playing third line, or him playing on the third line and him getting at least a decent amount of minutes per night. But to me, if he's not, then it's the same discussion I have with Noah Lava. Send him down to Hartford, let him over marinate again, let him work on his skating a little bit, and just let him put up points over there on the first line and let him dominate. And if he is dominating, then cool. Call him up by the 20, 30 game mark, or even, a little bit earlier if this team is, struggling. So like I said, for me, I would have had him on the opening night roster, but I don't have a problem with him starting the season in Hartford for me.
Yeah, because unfortunately, we're going to keep this topic going in a different way. He's not the guy you gotta wonder about that's going to Hartford, because is there anything left for Brendan Ottman within the Rangers organization?
Yeah, I don't see where he has a future here. Oh, hey, Jenny. Call him up in October. Yeah, I mean, listen, if he goes down, if we're talking about Perreault here, Jenny, if he goes down there and he absolutely flat out dominates, then they'll look at bringing him up sooner than later. And that's what I think they want to see. And when I watched the Up in the Blue Seats podcast, Larry Brooks actually said that the plan for Perreault was that unless he dominated in every single game, then he wasn't. The plan was always to send him back to Hartford, and that's good to know. But at the same time, Othman, I just don't think the skating's good enough. I don't, and you got to be able to skate at this level. And another thing is the Rangers have got to get away from drafting guys that have massive skating problems.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I did not like about Othman when they drafted him, was that the fact that he was not a good skater. And then he had that crazy 50-goal season in Flint. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. But the difference between someone like Perreault and Othman is that Perreault sees the game at a level far higher than Othman ever could or ever would. And that's why, and Brian Boyle said it. Like, he said it best. He's like, if you can see the game at that type of level and your hockey IQ is high, the game will come that much easier for you. Look at Derek Stepan. Derek Stepan was a guy that should have been, if his skating improved, should have been a 70-plus point guy. And that's back in like the lower scoring 10+ years ago NHL. Like he should have been that type of guy. Derek Stepan now, if he was like in his 20s, like he probably scores 70 points now because of the increase in offense.
Sorry to cut you off, Phil, but that's the main thing for me. The main difference between a guy like Brennan Hoffman and a guy like Gabe Pro, because like you just stated, like the Rangers for their future approach in drafting guys and drafting prospects is to shift away from the guys who need major improvements in their skating. I know Perreault and Hoffman both kind of fit that same criteria of not being great elite skaters, but like what you just pointed out, the main difference between a guy like Hoffman and a guy like Gabe Perreault is Gabe Perreault's hockey IQ and the way he actually sees the game completely destroys Brennan Hoffman in every single way. And listen, I think for me, for Gabe Perreault, if he ever wants to take that next huge step and become like a very good top 6 guy, I definitely think he needs to improve on his skating to become that guy. Because for me, like I said, if you want to become this all-around great superstar player in the league, or at least a very good consistent all-star, you need to have good skating ability. But for me, I think for Perreault, I think he could get away with having a subpar level skating ability because of his high hockey IQ and because of his elite level playmaking ability. For Brennan Hoffman, though, a guy that at best is going to be a bottom 6 guy and nothing more. If you're not going to have that high hockey IQ level, along with, just average skating, then to me, Brennan Hoffman is just not going to do anything in his, NHL career. And listen, that's not saying that Brennan Hoffman, because listen, for me, his Ranger career is over. Like I would look to move him, but that doesn't mean that he could go to another organization and figure it out and, carve himself a nice, decent depth role with another team. It's just, for me, like I said, the fact that, because when I was watching this preseason, and obviously, Brennan Hoffman had a lot of eyes on him. To me, I just saw nothing out of him. He really wasn't impacting the game whatsoever. He had a lot of bad turnovers for me. He really wasn't playing physical. And then even for me, when he was playing physical, I mean, he had that just dumb, game misconduct penalty that he took. I believe it was either against the Devils in New Jersey or the
Devils. The Devils, the first game.
Yeah.
So for me, like I said, he has no future here. It was a bad first-round pick by Chris Drury in his first draft. To me, you just have to move on from him. Hopefully for his sake, he could, find another team, find another organization, and hopefully, he finds himself for that new team. Because listen, for him, I have nothing personal against Brennan Hoffman. I hope that he finds success somewhere else in his NHL career.
Well, again, I'll point out to everybody that wonderful everything that Jeff Gorton set up. Basically, it got the Rangers 2 seasons of prosperity, but it also, you look at them now, I mean, they didn't have a plan for Kakko. They didn't have a plan for Lafreniere. So you draft the first and second overall. What was the point? Then they draft Braden Schneider, who we'll talk about him on Wednesday, because Phil had a good post about that during the week about potentially swapping out him with some other players, referring to Dallas. I forgot which guy it was.
Leon Bichelle. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so, I just think that I think that you have 2 young defenders that could benefit from a change of scenery because they're just blocked by depth in front of them. I know that some people are high on Will Borgen. I'm not specifically. I like the player. I don't like him as a top 4. I like him as a 5-6.
Then you got to do better to get him lower.
I mean, the AAV I just think is too high for that.
Yeah.
And I just don't get, again, this is going back to Drury and just not like the inconsistencies with him. Like, you wanted to give Braden Schneider more of a chance to be a top 4 guy, right? And he looked good with Keandre Miller, right? So then why are you going and giving Will Borgen a massive deal after 17 games? I don't understand that. Like, I just, to me, it's not that Igor is bad or Will Borgen is bad. It's just that you gave them these deals when you were in a state of influx.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Jenny posted one about Will Borgen today on Forever Blue Shirts, so go check that out. for everybody that's in the chat, definitely check out her work. She actually had a really good one on Brett Berard. It was like a week or two ago. I think it was last week, right? But I could be wrong about that. But it was definitely a good one that I read myself. I think that was I don't know. I'm losing track of time, so don't mind me.
Yeah, we've been going at this. This is supposed to be an hour show. We're already half an hour over. So.
No, I'm talking about just track of time in general, not
yeah.
This. But it's not, again, it's not that I think Igor is bad. I think Igor is one of the best goalies in the league. It's not that I think Will Borgen is bad. I think Will Borgen is a good, solid bottom pairing defenseman. I just think that you gave them these deals in a state of influx when you didn't know what was going on, and you probably should have held off until you had a clear direction in sight. And then you could have said, hey, you know what? I'm not married to Igor Shesterkin. We can rebuild. I'm not married to Will Borgen. I can give Braden Schneider top 4 minutes and let's see what happens instead of me having to speculate on, hey, would we be better off trading Will Borgen for, Braden Schneider for Leon Bichelle? Yeah, exactly. They were put into motion without direction. And that's really the thing. Like, you can't do that. And that's why they're in this complete state of utter confusion. You know what? I'll go Phil Collins / Disturb. Land of confusion. Because that's that we're going to go with here because it fits. It fits.
All right. Well, tomorrow night, the New York Rangers season opens, guys. We'll be doing our weekly show on Wednesday. Make sure you tune in. I believe you guys are both going to do a show tomorrow night, right, Matt? Or is it just going to be Evan doing the post game?
I think Evan for now. At least I think that's the plan. But I mean, Phil, if you're not doing anything, like if you want to do a final buzzer tomorrow, like I'd be more than happy to come on with you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
I think if anything, Mark, you're not working tomorrow night, right?
I'm not, but I'm going to have a nice quiet evening at home with my lovely wife.
Okay. Well, I mean, if at some point you want to jump on, we could do a 3. We could probably do that just because it's the opening night. So
yeah, I think Evan will probably jump on too after he does his post game show. So
okay, we'll talk. We'll
talk. We'll figure that one out.
We'll figure that out. So be on the lookout for that. Anyone who wants to jump in, I know that I don't know if Steven will do a post game space or not. He might do that. Hey, you just got brownie points, Mark. There you go.
Sir Marcus.
Sir Marcus of layup.
Wait,
you didn't
I need more brownie points. I need to stock up brownie points.
Sir Marcus of layup.
I did just now. I left him with the Sir Marcus Williams. Oh, captain, my captain.
Okay.
All right. Guys, everybody, thank you very much for joining us for this afternoon. We talked at length about the Connor McDavid contract and then about what the state of the New York Rangers is. Good luck to Matthew Schaefer, who will be making his NHL debut on Thursday. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday and what to expect. And there's a lot of energy this week. I don't know if it's going to be all good or all bad, but we're going to go more into that soon. Everybody, take it easy. Phil, last word.
Hasta la pasta, and I don't know. Let's go Rangers.